economist. All right, we got a number of people. I'm going to read a little bit of this right here. Bourgeois Equality, How Ideas, Not Capital, Transform the World by Deirdre McCloskey. Now, Deirdre McCloskey is a professor of economics at the University of Chicago, and she has a 3-book. It's nuts. I haven't read it. I don't even own it, and I'm going to. I was able to print off the foreword, which I've been wanting to read for a while. It's been sitting there on my desk, and I just said I'm going to read it while I was eating tonight. It's actually interesting about Deirdre because she was the first transgender person I ever heard of, to be honest with you. Because she was transgendered. She was a man, married a lady with kids back in the 90s, and then became a woman back before it's cool to do that. And, I got respect for anybody who goes against the grain. Let's just put it that way. Anyone who's got the guts to freaking, did Elton John come out in the 80s or even maybe the 70s? Anyone who's got the guts to do that, I got respect for. Hell, if you want to come out as a commie while everybody else is coming out as a capitalist, the same thing. But anyway, I just want to read this to you because I tell you, man. Let me just read this, and this might take me. And look, you can leave. I don't care. I found this to be very profound. In this third volume, I try to show that the massively better idea in technology and institutions, not capital accumulation or institutional interventions or government policies or union organizing, were the explanation. I tried to show that massively better ideas, not capital accumulation, not unions, not government policies, were the explanation of what caused the massive growth we've had over the last 300 to 400 years. As a wise man put it, humans recently have invented the method of invention. The ideas and inventions were released for the first time by a new liberty and dignity for commoners, expressed as the equality of the title, that is, by the ideology of the European liberalism. The great oomph of liberty and dignity can be shown by contraries. The linguist Kyoko Inune explains how a Western notion of individual dignity gained a certain following in Japanese society during the 20th century, especially on the very few Japanese Christians. And yet the word, when used in the MacArthur-imposed constitution after World War II, was misunderstood. Most Japanese still viewed their word for dignity, I can't pronounce genkaku, as expressing rank, as in the older English plural, dignities, something like the opposite of the Western and recent idea of dignity according to everyone, equally, including women. Therefore, dignity for women in Japan built into the new constitution was misunderstood as merely reaffirming the low rank of women in the Japanese hierarchy. The persisting indignity for half the population has not been good for the Japanese economy. At a time when the old heartland of liberalism in northwestern Europe has inched closer to its radical 18th century ideal of all men and women being created equal. The modern world was not caused by capitalism, which is ancient and ubiquitous, as for example in Japan itself during the 17th century. The modern world was caused by egalitarian liberalism, which was in 1776 revolutionary. It was the most prominent at the time, though still a minority view in places like the Netherlands and Britain and British North America. The Great Enrichment, 1800 to the present, the most surprising secular event in history, is explained by the bettering ideas springing from a new liberalism. It is recent. Some centuries before 1800, a few technological ideas had started to be borrowed by Europe from China. Paper, gunpowder, silkworm, the blast furnace. But in the 17th century onwards, and especially after 1800, the political and social ideas of liberalism shockingly extended the technological payoffs through equality of liberty and dignity in Holland, Britain, Belgium, and in the U.S. The economic historian Joel Mocker has recently chronicled the improvements in communication and in the welcoming of novelties that made for a free-willing and largely egalitarian republic of letters after 1500, and especially after the 1600s. The outcome of such rhetorical developments was a technological explosion after 1800, which radically improved Europe's first teachers overseas. The great enrichment is not to be explained by material matters of race, class, gender, power, climate, culture, religion, genetics, geography, institutions, or nationality. On the contrary, what led to our automobiles and our voting rights, our plumbing, our primary schools was the fresh ideas out of liberalism, a new system of encouragement to betterment and a partial erosion of hierarchy. Since capital accumulation is easily supplied in response to a generally bettering idea and is not therefore the initiating cause. That's such a huge thing. Capital accumulation is easily supplied in response to a generally bettering idea and is not therefore the initiating cause. So the better idea gets the funds. The funds don't show up and then a better idea comes. The idea sparks itself first, and then it goes out there to fundraise. But I'm going to fundraise to come up with an idea. It's crazy. The fraught C word, capitalism, does not make any appearances in Deirdre's books. The dishonored B word, bourgeois, though, appears all over the place. For example, in the titles of the 3 volumes I write, bourgeois was taken self-consciously into English from French, yet it is quite old as an English use as an adjective applying to the precisely urban middling sort I'm talking about. Employed in English from the early 18th century along the vaguer phrase that eventually came to dominate the middle class. One task of the trilogy here, starting with a suitably named The Bourgeois Virtues, is to revalue the people of the middle class, or the bourgeois, the entrepreneur and the merchant, the inventor of carbon fiber materials and the contractor remodeling your bathroom, the improver of automobiles in Toyota City and the supplier of spices in New Delhi. The second volume and the third then turn to the economic, now the social intellectual history, to show in detail that the ideas of the bourgeois imagined had arisen in the 18th century out of the new liberty and a new dignity accorded to ordinary people. Democracy of rights and voluntary trade and in polling booths. A democracy giving commoners a voice in the church and the economy and in politics made people bold, liberating them to have a go in business. In the historical lottery, the idea of an equalizing liberty and dignity was a winning ticket, and the bourgeois held it. Yet, after the failed revolutions in Europe during the hectic year of 1848, a new virulent detestation of the bourgeois infected the mass of artists, intellectuals, journalists, professionals, and bureaucrats. The clerisy, as it was called by Coleridge, or on a German pattern. The German's word was clericé, or later some German word, meaning the cultivated and reading enthusiasts for culture as against the commercial and bettering bourgeoisie. The clerisy of Germany, Britain, and especially France came to hate the merchants and manufacturers, and indeed anyone who did not admire the clericy's books and paintings. Flaubert declared, "I call bourgeois who thinks basely." He wrote to George Sand in 1867, the axiom that hatred of the bourgeois is the beginning of virtue. In 1935, the liberal Dutch historian Johan Huizinga noted that the hatred had become general among the clerisy. In the 19th century, bourgeois became the most pejorative term of all, particularly in the mouths of socialists and artists, and later even of fascists. How useful it would be from time to time to set up all the most common political and cultural terms in a row for reappraisal and disinfection. For instance, liberal would be restored to its original significance and freed of the emotional overtones that a century of party conflict has attached to it. To stand once again for worthy of a free man, that'd be liberal. Let's reclaim the word liberal. And bourgeois can be rid of all the negative associations with which envy and pride, for which is what they were and have endowed it, could it not once more refer to the attributes of urban life and middle-class people. Such automatic sneering at the bourgeoisie, need to stop. It is an unattractive brand of self-hatred, since most of us, as owners and sellers of at least human capital, are bourgeois. True, if one insists on using the word bourgeois as Jean-Paul Sartre, whatever the hell his name is, and Simone de Beauvoir used it to mean the worst and most inauthentic types of life of town life in France, it is not going to be much of an intellectual feat to conclude that the bourgeois life leads straight to the worst and most inauthentic types of town in France, like suburbs. But I urge you to stop using the word as a term of contempt and start using it scientifically and colorlessly to mean owners and managers in town, risk takers or reward takers, big or small in their capital, disproportionately literate, living by conversation. Then we can find out by actual inquiry whether or not it's virtuous to hate them. The point about it, what a great passage. It's not the freaking rich, the clerisy. It's the middle class. The middle class. And the freaking clowns in D.C. and the clowns in all the media and the entertainment industry, they hate the middle class, man. It's truly Main Street versus Wall Street. And it's got to come back to that. And this, I tell you, I think about this a lot. I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell is it with both Republicans and Democrats? They just, and if you just look at any book in the past, the guy, the local doctor who come to your house was always looked on negatively. You see what I'm saying? The guy who could not just fix your car because that was a little bit too modern, but the guy, just any merchant, the merchants were looked just negative ways. And it's the merchant, the tinkerer in the garage that created such wonderful explosion of wealth, prosperity, and liberty, frankly, for us. It's not the freaking scientists. It's not the clerisy. Certainly not the government bureaucrats, and never mind the lobbyists. It's just middle class. And this is what I just tell you, man. I don't know if Deirdre wrote about Eisenhower's farewell address when he left, but we're so focused on this technocratic I had a guy the other day post. He goes, Josh, I studied a little bit of science. You're way over your league. You shouldn't even talk about it. I was like, what the hell is that? I don't give two craps about your study. I care about your intrigue, man. God almighty. Pull your head out of your butt and have some intrigue about what the hell's going on instead of just leaving it to the experts. What the hell is that? It's crazy. The experts, according to who? Well, according to the experts, they're experts. Why? Because they self-anoint each other with PhDs. Who doesn't get into colleges? Well, it's any conservative. Conservatives can't go to college. So the experts are all in just, they're just freaking, I'd say a negative word about Circle, Charlie, Juliet. I won't going to say it, but I'd say they're all just taking care of each other in a circle, if you know what I'm saying. That's all they're doing. Freaking crazy, man. It's the middle class that freaking creates liberty. The middle class that creates freaking prosperity, that creates an explosion of ideas. It's not the moneyed interest. It's certainly not the freaking government bureaucrats. And it's certainly not the Faucis of the world who are sitting on their throne high and mighty who haven't seen a freaking patient in 50 years. All right, you're done. Clickbait. Hunter is an artist, right on, man. Oh my goodness, man! So much stuff that just is driving me crazy about the current state of the history here. I just wish people would pull their head out of their butts and recognize to leave their freaking their freedom to moneyed interest because they're high credentialed is freaking suicide. I don't give two craps. Like Bill Buckley used to say, I'd rather be governed by the first 200 names in a Boston phone book than all of the Harvard professors combined. And this is where Trump started the ball rolling, man. I'm telling you right now. Oh, by the way, if anyone's on YouTube, I voted for Trump. All right. I didn't attend the DC rally, but I did vote for Trump. So just let you know. So freaking blackball me because, anyone who voted for Trump is obviously a Nazi fascist, whatever the other stuff is, an insurrectionist and freaking scumbags. It's crazy. And Trump started, and maybe even a little bit of old Bernie there. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, there's a lot of overlap between the Occupy Wall Street people and the Trumpster, a lot of overlap. But I just hope at some point we can look beyond this false dichotomy of the freaking left versus right, which I'm guilty of. I'm not going to lie to you. Absolutely. And start saying, something, we have the moneyed interests up here. We got the poor down here, and these guys are getting squeezed in the middle here. Now, we can argue all day long. Yes, the middle class isn't really shrinking per se, but they are shrinking, dudes. We are turning our liberty over to the moneyed interest and the credentialed elite, and we got to stop that crap. There's never been a society where the credentialed elite leads to freedom for the mass. Never, ever, ever, and it'll never come. And we're moving that direction right in front of our very eyes. All right, so for all you clowns who just look. I just look. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be here, man. So I'm nuking you if you start to say clickbait because I don't care. If you're new to my channel, I don't care. If you're new to my channel, you might not want to comment. I don't care. But I'm just saying, I talk about what I want to talk about. Don't get here. But I am going to talk about the Vanguard stuff. I'm not in the mood when we have a whole world around us like, oh, this is clickbait. When I do these live streams, I do it for quite a long time. And it's fun for me. You don't have to be here. I just don't care. But I'm sick of freaking, you're not talking about what I should be talking about. It drives me up the wall. All right. I look like a 30-year-old boy. Is that my man, Bobby S? All right. Good job. All right. Spokane in the house. Right on. So San Antonio. I lived in Bernie, Delaware County. All right. I've been following your weather. It's colder than I expect. It's cold down here, brother. It is cold. Speaking of, heard Bernie was appointed to the Senate Budget Committee. Yes, liberals hate the middle class. Hate the middle class. I don't know why, but liberals hate the middle class. Always have. Now, I will tell you, wealthy Mitt Romney types have also hate the middle class. The WASPs. I know Mitt Romney's a Mormon, but the WASPs have hated the middle class too. And so give him a refund and tell him to shut up, right? I don't know why that is. I've never understood why the animosity towards the middle class, towards the merchants. It's weird. All right, so let's go. But I appreciate y'all. I just reading this. I was like, man, I gotta share it. Oh man, Deirdre McCloskey, get her stuff, and I tried to interview her because I was actually it's interesting to me because she came out as transgender before it was cool, like I said, and I always wonder like why? I mean, what caused that? I mean, I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea how that works. I like chicks. I'm not gay. I got a hot wife, and I'm proud of that. How she chose me is beyond my. It certainly wasn't for my money. It certainly wasn't from the way I speak. But I don't. So how do people become gay? I'm pretty comfortable that most people are gay because they're born like that. But how do you come like you're a dude and then you say that's not my body? Like it's always been like that. I don't. Yeah, that's right. Jake says Jake says they hate us because we far outnumber them. Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. And they know where the pitchforks. Anyway, I want but I mean she's huge and I'm not. I always wonder like what like did you sit there one day and you said I'm a chick and I'm a guy? How does that work? I can't fathom, and I'm interested in it. I don't like the bullying tactics from these people. I'll tell you that. Not all of them, but there are enough, that's for sure. But why not? Why not say this is? I don't know. It just seems to me like why not tell people instead of saying you will abide by? Why not say this is what happened? I don't get why they don't. But again, not everybody. Let's just put it that way. I wish it'd be. I think it'd be a lot more where people could say, this is how it came to the realization of who I am, as opposed to this is what I choose today and you will follow. All right. So let's go to the Vanguard.